Hey, I'm Handscomb and this is my straight drive. What I'm looking for here is basically just trying to transfer my weight nicely over my front foot, engage my left side of my body, so making sure that my left elbow, left shoulder are nice and high, nice and strong, and then just offering the full face of the bat for as long as I can. Give myself the best chance to hit the ball. Also making sure that my head's going down the wicket and not going too much across onto the offside, and that way I'll start losing my balance and sort of playing around my front pad. So I want to make sure I'm going forward, get all my energy going back into the ball, and hopefully that means it can go back down the wicket. A little trick as well that works for me in trying to stay side on, especially with straight drives, cover drives, is that my back foot, instead of pointing to point, my back foot's actually pointing just to backward point, and that helps my back hip stay locked in, and then I'm not coming through like that, but instead staying nice and side on and almost finishing on my big toe. In terms of my front foot and kind of how big my stride's going to be, I'm not too worried about focusing on my stride, but I'm focusing more on my head going down the wicket, and sort of my feet will follow my head. Our head's the heaviest part of the body, so wherever that goes, that's where the foot's going to go. So just making sure that that's nice and straight, and then the stride length will be what it will be, but at least my momentum is going back towards the ball. What I'm looking to do here, again, is to let the ball come nice and close, nice and late. But the main thing is getting nice and high up on my toes and getting that front elbow nice and high as well. That will allow me to get over the top of the ball and hit it down, rather than getting caught a little bit and maybe hitting the shoulder of the bat, the ball going to slip, sort of gully. Similar to the cut shot, is that weight transference onto the back foot. We're still making sure that our head's in a good, strong position. It's not falling away from our body and getting out here, because that loses control of the bat and we might get caught asleep. So still getting in nice and tight, eyes in line with the ball, behind the bat. Still trying to stay nice and side on here as well. I'm trying to get my front foot almost just to meet my back foot. I'm not trying to get it out here, because then I feel like I'll lose my shape. So still staying nice and side on, and then trying to get that elbow up nice and high. What I'm looking to do here is play it late off my back hip, and making sure that I transfer my weight onto the back foot to give myself enough time to adjust if any variable bounce happens or any seed movement happens. I'm also trying here to get my hands high, so that once they're high, I can get on top of the ball and hit the ball down. You know, just in case there's a gully in play or a backward point or something, we don't want the ball going through head high. So if I can get it bouncing, kicking off the square, and hopefully running away for 4. Yeah, so still looking to put energy through into the ball, making sure that my head doesn't go this way as I'm playing it. I'm still going over the top of the ball, hands high to low to get it down and bouncing off that square. As the name suggests with the late cut, I'm just trying to play it as late as possible. Trying to watch the ball onto my bat, but almost playing it off my back hip and maybe just behind. Depending on the wicket as well, if it's a bit variable, I'll try and play it more with a straight bat, letting it come in here and letting it run off. If I can trust the bounce a bit more, then I can go a little bit more like that, because I'm not too worried about the bottom edge coming onto the stumps and having a chop on. Not trying to put any pace onto it either, it's almost just letting the ball hit the bat and guiding it down there. And like I said, playing it nice and late off your back hip. Also, you want to try and stay in quite a nice strong shape. So if you can stay side on I try and stay side on as possible, and it allows me to almost engage that front shoulder, front elbow, let the ball hit the bat and run it off the face of the bat down to third man. As soon as I see it short, I'm trying to get my hands up nice and high, nice and fast, because that will allow me to get over the top of the ball, or at least drop my hands if there's any variable bounce in the wicket. I find if I start a little bit low, then I've sort of got nowhere to go to adjust. So this allows me to adjust, try and get the ball on top of the bounce and hit it out to square leg. Yeah, I'm trying to hit this on the ground more because it just gives me a bit of control. And if there is that variable bounce in the wicket, then I know I can adjust and hopefully just hit the gap. I'm also trying to swivel off my back foot once I hit the ball. So on contact or just after contact, still going with it and sort of allowing my front foot to come around if I can. That allows me just to adjust to anything. If there's any variable bounce, sideways or up and down. But I find if I'm just in that position, then I'm just going to get stuck. So this one is a bit more, when it's a bit faster and a little bit higher, and you're almost just swiveling and helping the ball on its way. So really swiveling off that back foot, rolling with it, and just letting the ball do the work off the bat down to fine leg. Yeah, so just trying to help the ball on its way. This is a bit more of a low to high swing, whereas the pull shot was that high to low with the control. This one is more getting under it, going with the ball, and letting it go up off the bat. Hopefully you hit it for 6, or at least hit it in the gap. Yeah, this can be a good shot as well. Sort of back end one days, T20s. Maybe they've got 4 fielders out to the leg side and they're just trying to pepper you in tight so you don't get to free your arms. So if you can sort of get inside it, help the ball on its way, and use the pace from the bowler, and then hopefully hit it over the fence for 6. So typically, when I start sweeping in an innings, I'm looking to get across and play the ball on this side of my foot, because that gives me the most confidence just to get a feel for sweeping and getting in the position. And it doesn't need to be a big swing. It's more of just a guide around the corner, almost a lap, but just a little bit more power on it. And that just gets me into my control for sweeping. I'm also thinking here of trying to get my nose to my toes, basically as close as possible. So I'm trying to get my head forward so I can get over the top of my foot and give me the best chance of watching the ball onto the bat. I don't want to be taking my step and then bringing my head back up here, because then I lose a little bit of control and I'm not watching the ball. So I'm trying to get as close as possible to watch it onto the bat. Yeah, so typically in a one-day game, the right arm off spinner's on, you know, they might maybe long on, maybe one out there, maybe two, but let's say they've got one, they've also got long off and deep point, then there's a gap generally behind square, and all I've got to do is try and beat 45. So I don't need to hit it too hard, just got to try and get around to the left of 45 and let it curl, and hopefully that goes to the boundary. Once I've played a few sweep shots and I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident, that's when I start to position my foot in a slightly different spot so I can get more power on it and start hitting the ball in front of square. So to get it behind, the ball was on the left side of my foot. To try and get it in front, it starts moving more outside the right side of my foot. And that's just by changing where I put my foot in terms of sweeping. So, been sweeping a little bit now, starting to get comfortable with how I'm moving, how the pitch is reacting. So now I'm going to look to try and slog sweep a few. This is more about clearing my front foot, getting my hands up closer to my back shoulder, and then just swinging nice and hard and nice and long. So still trying to focus here on getting my nose to my toes. Still allows me to watch the ball onto the bat as best as possible. The only difference is that foot positioning and then getting that front foot out of the way to allow that swing to happen. I'm going to try slog sweep here. Going to go a little bit lower with my legs and then clear my front foot a little bit to allow that swing. And with playing off the back foot as well, I'm trying my hardest to get my front foot out of the way. So what I don't want to try and do is play back like that, because I feel like I can't access the ball and it brings in LB a lot more. So if I'm going to play off the back foot, I'm trying to get this leg out that way, even behind me, to try and get power from here. This is something that I spoke to Ajinkya Rahane about, and I think he's one of the best players of spin that I've seen. So he got his leg out of the way and it allowed him to access with power through some gaps both leg side and offside. This is just singles at the moment. Again, getting used to a potential change in condition, change in bowler, just trying to hit the gaps for the moment, and then sort of seeing how the field adjusts. And if I'm not hitting the gaps, then the risk versus reward comes into it again, and maybe I need to take a little risk to try and get one over mid-wicket. That's sort of my better scoring area, so that's where I'm going to try and get one off the back foot. With being in the subcontinent, we're going to assume that the wicket's going to spin a little bit more. And with that comes uncertainty about using your feet and coming down the wicket. So going to look to play a lot more from the crease. And so that means defending off the front foot and maybe looking to score a bit more off the back foot, either giving myself room to lay off through the covers or getting inside and trying to clip to leg side. In the Subcontinent as well, I tend to have a wider stance and I get a little bit lower, and that helps me to be able to defend as far forward down the wicket as possible, still without leaving my crease. Because if I can get out and get my bat out in front as well, even if it's on an angle like that, what I'm trying to protect is if it beats my outside edge, hopefully it doesn't hit my off stump. If it beats my inside edge and hits my pad, hopefully it's going down leg. So basically, if it beats my bat, it shouldn't hit the stumps because I'm so far down. And then with inconsistent turn and bounce in the Subcontinent, it'd be quite hard to manipulate the ball off the front foot. So what I'll be looking with this stance, being a bit wider and a bit lower, hopefully being able to get on the back foot a bit quicker and sort of punch through your square legs or your covers. So my first conscious thought is taking as big a stride forward as I possibly can, because the further I can get out in my first stride means that I can adjust or make a smaller adjustment on my second stride. What I'm trying not to do is take a small first stride and then having to lunge at my second stride. That's where trouble starts to happen. So just focusing right now on as big a first stride as possible and then adjusting to where the ball goes. My main focus is scoring quite straight. Because there's not a lot of turn, if you offer full face of the bat, you should be able to get good connection and good timing on the ball, and therefore you can place it a little bit better. The more it turns and the more it starts to really bite and spit off the wicket, the more you start to look square in your scoring options and you start to defend really straight. So the more it spins, maybe your sweep shots come into it, or your back foot sort of lay off or back foot cut. But I like to be able to use my feet, and I think that kind of gets me going. And this was something that I practiced a lot with my dad when I was really young. We used to go down to the local nets, to a local cricket ground, and he would just throw balls, and no matter where the ball was, I would have to use my feet to come down the wicket, and then I'd have to react to what ball was thrown. In my head, you've got mid on up and mid wicket in place, because I haven't hit anything over the top yet. So you're almost enticing me to either go over or try and hit the gap here. So at the moment, I'm just trying to hit this gap between two fielders and let it go for 2, 3 or 4. And if I can't hit the gap and I feel like I need to try and find a single somewhere here, then maybe it's the risk versus reward, but risk to go over the top to then push the fielder back to then get a single along the ground. So yeah, so that's hopefully the risk that pays off. You come down, push the fielder back, and then you can keep just coming down the wicket to hit your long on, especially with you spinning it back into me. And then on that one sort of goes back to what I was saying about taking a big first step and then being able to adjust. So the ball wasn't quite there to do anything with it, but because I was far enough down the wicket, I had a smaller step to make to adjust rather than trying to make a big second lunge. This sort of plan works nicely when right arm off spinner, spinning the ball back in. You know, if there's a little bit of turn, I can work to the leg side. If it's pretty straight, then it kind of opens up both sides of the wicket. It becomes a lot more difficult when it's a left arm off spinner or a leggy, when the danger can be beating you on the outside edge, using your feet to someone who can beat you on the outside edge just opens up that dismissal, especially if it's inconsistent bounce or inconsistent turn. If you don't know if it's sliding on or turning. And then my plan will change to batting in my crease or staying in my crease for a lot longer. In England, especially in county cricket where the bounce can tend to be a little bit lower, my stance is lower as well. I've found it easier to get forward and cover your shin basically, because here a lot of balls definitely hit your front pad a lot more and they're still hitting the stumps. So I've gotten lower to allow myself to get forward a bit better. Whereas in Australia, where there's a bit more bounce, I can stand a little bit taller and play maybe a little bit more off the back foot. I've got a bit of a weird bat tap, but the main reason for doing it is to get my grip right so that I'm ready to face. So what I've found is if I tap the bat normally like this, behind the back foot or in between, when I pick the bat up and let it come through, it feels like it's really closed, and that's because where my bottom hand is. So the whole reason for opening up like that is to make sure that when it comes through, it's nice and straight and my bottom hand isn't gripping really tight, but it's nice and loose. I can manipulate the ball from there. Another beauty about having this bat tap is it kind of allows me to get in and out of my bubble. So I've got some trigger words that I like to say to myself, and they happen on my bat tap. So that allows me to get away from the game in between balls, but then switch back on once I get into the box and do my bat tap.